Curious how the Safdie brothers make a film? In this episode, we'll be talking about some of the approaches the brothers adapt into their filmmaking process to create their recognizable hits. Stay tuned. Hey y'all, I'm Juliana, and this is Juliana Talks Films, the channel where I explore and examine films and filmmakers. If you love films and filmmaking, consider subscribing for weekly videos. Now before we get started, if you haven't already checked out my video on the Safdie's 5 lessons on filmmaking, be sure to check that out afterwards. I'll link it in the cards above and the description below. And with that, let's delve into how the Safdie brothers make a movie. One of the reasons the Safdies have been able to make such impactful films in the last decade is their dedication to realism, or naturalism. Like many writers, the brothers draw on real-world inspiration, often taking other people's stories and molding them into their own. The brothers' second feature film, Heaven Knows What, was based on Ariel Holmes' unpublished memoir, Mad Love in New York City. The brothers met Ariel in 2012 at none other than the Diamond District while they were knee-deep in research for Uncut Gems. After hearing her story, the pair decided to momentarily pause on Uncut Gems and shift their attention to Heaven Knows What. The result? A gritty, often hard-to-watch tale of drug addiction at its worst. Likewise, Good Times protagonist Connie was actually inspired by the Safdie's real-life friend, Buddy Duress, who's appeared in several of their movies. During Buddy's incarceration in 2014, he kept prison journals where he'd write about his hopes, dreams, and overall perspectives on life. Those journals would later be given to Josh, who would use them as inspiration for the character of Connie.
At the time, I was very close with these prison journals that I had Buddy Duress keep while he was locked up, and I shared some of them with Rob, and I wanted to mine those, and there was a character in my life that I was very close with at a younger age and was close with again, and I wanted to kind of mold Connie into Connie Negus in a way.
If there's one lesson or a bit of information to take away from the Safdies, it's to know your character. Because, as they put it,
and once you know these people really well, it becomes really easy to write them and know what they do in each circumstance. And that was kind of, when you come from a background of, even though we're not like documentarians, but we come from a background of, Heaven Knows What was like a docudrama basically. And,
right.
We had been so interested in, I want to say realism, but that word is kind of so bastardized, in a sense of we were so interested in how people act and react and feel and think. When you take that kind of, learned knowledge and apply it to criminal situations or, thrilling situations, it really forces you to reify every single decision.
What's more, they embark on months of research to fully immerse themselves in the worlds they're looking to capture. They'll often frequent their characters' natural habitats, so they understand the dynamics, energy, and relationships that occur in these environments. It's not uncommon for the Safdies and their team to befriend real people in these settings and explore their personal lives for additional reference.
Your research into this, how much time did you spend?
A lot, yeah. These guys, got so familiar with the block and became such good friends with the guys. And they brought me to that world, and we sat together, and I met, a lot of jewelers and a lot of store owners and a lot of families that grew up on the block, and they let me sit with them, and we all sat together. And these guys, we took mannerisms from certain people and things they say, and a few of the guys from the block were on the set while we were shooting the jewelry stuff just to make sure, because there was some improvising at times, and whenever that was happening, we wanted to be legit, and we had the guys around, and sometimes I would talk about phrasing stuff and how they would phrase it, and I
love the voice that we kind of.
I kind of got a voice from one of the guys, guys that we became close with.
Of course, locations also say a lot about a character. They can often hide details that reveal information we might not consciously be aware of. In Uncut Gems, Howard's jewelry shop was a representation of a bygone era, one where he was at his prime.
All of these spaces, they're all so, they all kind of are in the same general language, but they all speak to the person who runs it, so you can tell when the business was thriving.
So
usually,
lived in,
you can usually tell based on the decor and the era. So with our character, we decided in the biography that he really hit it big in the late 90s, early aughts. So that's where you see that late 90s is really where you see his decor of the space. So you can tell a lot by someone's workspace and someone's home.
And the hardest part about the set was making it feel like it had been around for 10 years. You know, those filling in the little details, because once you had the broad picture of it,
More than 10 years.
but the broad picture of the space, you then had to fill in all of the details of, okay, what makes this lived in? You know, what are the things that you have to add, like the speaker wires that are no longer used and were updated, but they're still there. You know, all these little things that you can see the history of the space and the details. I don't know.
The brothers intentionally note this trait of Howard's to further convey his inner conflict. As constant shifts in his life occur, he's trying to stay afloat and remain relevant, at times unsuccessfully. Howard is forever chasing this ideal, an epitome of his life when success was a concrete reality. It's important to also note how all the protagonists the Safdies write are on the margins of society, teetering between sanity and lunacy. Much like their environments, both their social circles and the city of New York at large, the characters themselves are reactive, unpredictable, and ever-changing. There's a constant bustle to them, which transmutes it to rambunctious energy. These characters are the unseen personalities of New York, the ones that make the city as much as the city makes them. At the same time, these characters are involved in extreme situations that often seem surreal. The chaos and franticness that at times are unbearable likewise elevates the protagonist and viewers into an adrenaline high that comes close to feeling like a drug. Character headspace is frequently questionable and unreliable, leaving us wondering where the lines between reality and fantasy are blurred. To further the authenticity in their movies, the brothers rely on a mix of real people casting in addition to professional actors to fill their roles. By bringing in non-actors, they're better able to capture the essence of the story and settings in a realistic way. Casting director Jennifer Vendetti explains their casting process.
They do so much research. I don't know if everyone knows, but this is a 10-year process. So everything that we do, we approach it first with that. It's like understanding the world. So they give us as much, my team and I, as much information as possible to really understand what the world is. And then, so our first meeting, it's like they had spent so much time in the district. They just gave us names and people, and then we go to the district, to the Diamond District, and really meet all these people so we can experience it. We went to one of the big families on the block, their house in Forest Hills for dinner. And just really feel what it is, where this world is coming from, so we understand it. So that's the first process. And then after that, after really getting into it, there's a long process of bringing in people that we find from that world that we think are interesting and could be cinematic, and bringing them into the office, and we go through an interview process. Then after the interview, we're looking for people who their world meets with the character's world that we're looking to cast. And then from that, we do improvisational exercises with them to see who really can be themselves, because everyone feels like, oh, it's nothing, you're just yourself. But it's really hard to be on camera and be yourself. So we want to see who can bring something actually to the character through improvisation that actually inspires the guys as well, and that there is like an ease and a comfort to them to actually be present, because they're going to be mixed with a professional actor, and you want to be able to have that alchemy that they're comfortable and they're not throwing everyone else off, and it brings the reality of the world to the professional actors as well. So we go through that process, and that's like a long, exciting process.
In Uncut Gems, the brothers also blurred the lines between reality and fiction even further by casting real-world artists and athletes to play themselves. In fact, the footage of Kevin Garnett playing basketball was real game footage from the 2012 NBA playoffs. The brothers knew it would be almost impossible to predict future game stats, so they relied on previous games to dictate Howard's bet, which of course, he wins. All of these elements, plus many more, are just some of the fundamental factors that contribute to the brothers' storytelling techniques. Was there anything about their process that stood out to you? Leave me a comment below and let me know. And don't forget to check out the Safdie Brothers 5 Lessons on Filmmaking, linked here and in the description below. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.